This USA trip has really grated Namibians' groins, with people not only taking issue with the size of the delegation and the length of their stay, but also the fact that certain members of the First Lady's family had accompanied the First Family on the trip and immediately took issue with whether or not they had traveled on taxpayers' expense. MISA Namibia's director, Natasha Tibinyane, put these questions to the First Lady on Twitter. Here's her story.
I was in a meeting with media and civil society colleagues where we were discussing the cost of the government delegation that is attending the United Nations General Assembly in New York. And we were airing our concerns in regard to how much it's costing us as the Namibian public, considering the financial crisis that we are experiencing right now as a country. A media colleague of mine then mentioned that the First Lady's sister is in New York also. I found that interesting, but you know, we were in a meeting, so I forgot about it. Then later that evening, I read the Gwen Lister's political perspective in the Namibian, which was appealing to our political leaders to please reduce their expenditures considering the financial crisis. And then I was reminded of what my colleague said about the First Lady's sister being in New York, and I was like, okay, let me go to her social media pages to confirm whether she's in New York or not. And she's a regular tweeter, and for days she hadn't tweeted. And then I went to her Facebook account and I saw that she had tweeted a few days earlier a picture of her in New York Times Square, and that she's on holiday. Then I was like, So then I went and I used Gwen Lister's political perspective. I then tagged the First Lady and Tashia Kalondo, the sister of the First Lady, who was in New York at the same time that our delegation was there. And I just said, Tashia Kalondo says she's on a holiday in New York, but I wonder. And why I was saying, but I wonder, I was wondering who's paying for the cost of a holiday. This was late at night, and then I went to bed. And then what had happened was is that Benedict Lowe, who's another activist, then also got involved in the conversation. And then the First Lady then responded to both me and Benedict and said that Tashia's holiday is privately funded. And then Benedict questioned the First Lady on that, and then she sent back a GIF, and which said, I've got the receipts. So then I woke up in the morning and I saw this communication between the First Lady and Benedict, and then I was like, oh, I was with a friend, and I said, oh, the First Lady says that Tashia's holiday is privately funded. And then the friend asked, because she didn't know about this online conversation I was having regarding the trip. And then the friend asked, oh, does she also have the receipts for the rest of the family? And I'm like, what do you mean the rest of her family? And she said, well, the parents are there and some of the siblings are there as well. So does she have receipts for that as well? Then I was confused. So I called somebody else who I know is connected to the Kalondo family somehow. And this individual confirmed that the First Lady's family, including the parents, is in New York, and they are there during this time of the UN General Assembly. That's when I then asked the First Lady, I said, I just heard that your family is there, including your parents. Who is paying for this? Now, I asked her that directly because this source is a very reliable source. And that's when the First Lady became defensive, and then started basically saying that the right to access to information is dependent on certain things and her right to privacy must be respected. So she became very defensive. So in a couple of tweets, not answering the question I asked her, but being defensive. Then I just told her that I've done my part as a citizen. I'm now leaving it up to the media. And I tagged the Namibian media houses and I said they must investigate.
Here's an excerpt from the First Lady's response. This entire saga has served as a regrettable and unnecessary distraction from the focus and attention on the far more important issues deserving investigation around transparency and accountability. This issue further reminds us of the need for the media to, at all times, adhere to good journalistic practices, ethics, and standards. Good journalistic practices and standards enhance the quality and accuracy of reporting, as well as protecting the legitimate interests of those who are the subject of reporting. With the above said, I believe that this matter has now been fully clarified and hope in the future care will be taken before the media makes unwarranted imputation of dishonesty on others and unnecessarily cause harm to people's dignity. Natasha says she faced a barrage of responses to her tweet. Check this out.
People started calling me who had information that it's true that members of the First Lady's families in New York. I have media sources that confirmed that it's true. I have a media source within the Namibian Media Holdings that said that they've known about the First Lady's family being in New York since the previous week, but because the First Lady is their boss, they decided to keep the story under wraps. This person told me, I've got children who go to school, I don't want to lose my job. That's a direct quote. Then the Namibian then picked up on the story. They contacted their state house sources, which confirmed that the state did cover some of the First Lady's family's costs to go to New York. And then there are the street sources. So now the media sources and the street sources and the state house sources are all confirming that the First Lady had members of her family there. So then the First Lady, in that long 2-page statement that she made, that she shared with the media, she admitted that her son is there, she admitted that Tashia is there, and that her sister is there to work, and that her costs in New York are covered by her employer. Now that sounds feasible, because I know which sister she's talking about. So that sounds feasible. But there were other siblings, and I heard there was a niece as well. So yesterday there was new information that was released. Here's the thing. When it comes to corruption within the state, it is very difficult to investigate it because sources don't want to be quoted because they fear victimization. So this is the conundrum we are in right now. We have these people that have the information, but they don't want to be quoted. So what has happened now is that a lot of people are calling me and asking me, what's the next step? Because I have been demanding for accountability and transparency. The First Lady is not telling us everything. And what we would like is just for the First Lady to be honest. What I would like is for just the First Lady to be honest and tell us who of her family members were there, how did they get there. I heard information, for example, that the Kalondo family was staying in a flat in New York. So, and the First Lady was saying Tashia was staying at a hotel down the street. But the information that we got, I got this information yesterday actually, is that the Kalondo family was staying in a flat. Who paid for this flat? Who's paying for their meals and drinks and spending money? And yes, the First Lady declared that she's got $60 million in equity. She's got a lot of money, obviously. She's quite rich. So one would assume that she can afford to take her family to New York. But did she?
I asked the First Lady's office to provide me with these receipts so that I could put this matter to rest once and for all. But I was informed that this letter that she sent was all we were to hear on the matter.